Bathing is one of the most important activities of daily living to prevent infections and maintain good hygiene. But it's also one of the most complicated caregiving activities because this task can often leave clients feeling cold, exposed, and vulnerable. Bathing can be especially difficult when caring for an individual with dementia who may not even recognize a familiar loved one and will refuse to get undressed in front of them. That's why I'm excited to be joined by Jodi Bellam from the Blue Hug to dive deeper into this topic. But first, a disclosure. Before we begin, we'd like to know that today's guest, Jodi Bellam, is the founder of the Blue Hug and owner of Better Off at Home, a company that provides companionship services to the senior community. While this episode will explore a range of solutions related to bathing, we want to be transparent that one or more of the solutions discussed is associated with a guest company. Our goal is to provide balanced educational content, and other product types and considerations will also be discussed. And now, back to our conversation. Welcome to Innovative Aging, a podcast for clinicians who want to stay creative, stay informed, and stay connected to what's possible. I'm your host, Carol Chiang, an occupational therapist with 27 years of experience in rehab and home-based care. I know how hard clinicians work to keep their clients aging safely, whether that means hacking together solutions, testing new products, or thinking 3 steps ahead. If you're passionate about helping your clients function better, but just don't have the time to keep up with all the latest solutions, this podcast is for you. On Innovative Aging, you'll hear practical, energizing conversations with experts in rehab, design, and innovation that can spark fresh ideas you can bring back to the people you serve. Together, we can rethink what it means to age well at home and lead the way in shaping the future of aging. Let's dive in. Welcome, Jodi. I'm so glad to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So let's start with a quick introduction. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay, yes. Long story short, I was in advertising for 35 years. And in '09, just decided I wanted to get out of that business and I wanted to do something that actually I could work with people. And I've always loved elderly people. Um, and I talked to my mom, who was a nurse at the time. She's retired now, and told her I wanted to start a home care agency because I wanted to work with older people and take care of them. And so she helped me get my license, and in '09, I started Better Off at Home. So I've
Oh,
been doing that for 16 years. And then it just in all of the interaction with families, you know, we have conversations about, all the challenges taking care of mom and dad, and bathing was the greatest challenge for all of us and my caregivers and the people that were in the homes with the clients. And it's just, there's so many reasons why people don't want to take a shower when they get older. So I was talking to this man on the phone, and he was just beside himself, did not know what to do about giving his mom a bath. She lived with them. She did not want either one of them to help her. So it had been like a bad time frame where she hadn't taken a shower. And I told him, I said, look, let me do some research. Let me find you something that can help you. Well, I looked and looked and looked and looked, and this was probably 7 years ago that I started thinking about doing this. Couldn't find anything. So eventually I just dove in and jumped off the cliff and did it myself. And I got this thing done, and of course it took some different designing and fabrics, but we came up with what we have now.
I love that. I love that. And
Yeah.
I am a big scuba diver. So when I saw that your product was made of neoprene, I knew immediately that that would be comforting because,
Yeah.
what you're doing is you're heating up the water that's between where the neoprene is and your skin, and it
Mhm.
creates that circulation of just this warmth around it.
Right.
It's very ingenious activity.
Yeah. Well, and I'll tell you this, being very honest, the warm thing was not something I planned. I well, like I said, we went through some different fabrics, and I came up with neoprene because I didn't want it to be waterproof. I wanted the water to be able to get to your skin, but I didn't want it to cling to you. And, neoprene's got a lot of body to it. So I thought, well, let's just try this. And when I put it on, after I had it made, I put it on and got in the shower with it. And I was like, oh my God, this is so warm and comfortable. And then, it gets weighted too, filling up
Yeah.
with water. It's just cozy.
From an OT perspective, that is the idea of looking at the sensory stuff. So
Mhm.
you're creating calm in a space that people have a lot of anxiety around
Right.
and just giving them the weight, and it helps them say, "I'm safe. I'm
Right.
okay. I'm nice and warm." It's a different experience than being, naked with the air going and just
Yeah.
feeling exposed. There's a
Mhm.
lot of stuff going on in there, especially after a fall.
Yeah.
Um, you know, Caregiving is so hard, and I imagine having an agency where you're literally doing this for 16 years. You've probably seen a lot of difficult situations. Can you share a little bit about, what kind of conversations besides the bathing, do people are people worried about? What have you really enjoyed about working with older adults in this?
People are lonely. I mean, and even if they live with their family doesn't hang out with them all the time. They have things to do. And being isolated like that, I have seen what it does to people. So having the thought that, oh, Jennifer's going to come on Wednesday, they have that to look forward to. And even if it's just a few hours, um, it's huge in their life to know that they've got a companion, even if they don't need a lot of help, just to have
Mhm.
somebody that's their friend, that's just for them.
And,
And
I
that's the
think that's
part
the
I
reason.
really love about this.
Yeah. Oh, I completely agree with you. When I worked in home health, if I didn't have a schedule, I'd be sitting there having tea with every one of them, but I probably wouldn't get
I
home until
know.
midnight.
I know,
It's
I know.
so fun, so
Yeah.
wonderful to hear the stories of lives lived and the
Mhm.
adventures. I mean, oh my goodness, it's so fun. And something that you said really kind of made me think that it's really about the relationship, isn't it? Very much
It
building that
is.
trusting relationship between somebody who's going to help you with that intimate activity of bathing. And
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 that is
so
one of my biggest things when I talk to families at the very beginning when I'm doing assessments. The most important thing is that they love their caregiver and they want them to be there with them and they're excited about seeing them. That's really
yeah,
what it's all about.
yeah,
I have great girls and they're all very personable and some people like quiet. They don't like the caregiver in their face talking to them all the time. So you just kind of have to pair the caregiver with the client, but most people really love that camaraderie.
yeah.
They
And
love it.
it sounds like they're really good at reading what kind of person that they
Oh,
are
yeah.
working with. They
Yeah. Well,
know
the
this is the
families
kind of.
tell me, a
Mhm.
lot of it, they'll tell me. Like mom doesn't want somebody chatting her up all day. They need to leave her alone.
Yeah, and, it's funny because a lot of times people won't do things for the family, but they'll do things for third parties.
Absolutely. That is
So
the
there's
truth.
such value in bringing
Right.
in, a neutral party who can say, "Hey, I can help you get in that shower. Don't worry. We can do this together and you'll be
Well, and talking
safe."
about talking about, like, physical therapy, they won't do anything for their family. They will not, but
Mm,
these caregivers, they can get them up and get them moving and walking and encourage them because they make it fun, because 'cause they're not in a hurry, they're like, "Take your time, that we have all day, let's just get you stronger," and my biggest things is you gotta keep your legs strong.
mhm.
So, the caregivers are always working with them and trying to encourage them to move.
Yeah. Really the biggest benefit of having in-home care, that they have time. Because
Oh,
I
yeah.
think, in skilled nursing and in other settings, there's such a schedule, 8 o'clock breakfast, 12 o'clock lunch, which means that I've maybe one person has 8 people that they need to get out of bed, get
Right.
clothed, get ready for breakfast, and then move,
Mhm.
move them to that location, which means that there's no time to actually let someone practice how to get on a shirt and how to get on pants. And, can you stand up to brush your teeth and I can stand next to you in order to make sure that
Right.
you work on your legs, but also feel safe.
Right.
Yeah.
And think
So,
about working with people with dementia. Good lord. They don't even know what
yeah.
you're talking about half the times, and they're always rushing them and hurrying because they just have their job to do.
Yeah, yeah. Definitely in home, I think, is something that is really important. But you do really highlight that idea that it is hard to take care of somebody of the opposite sex. And I know that the men that I've had as clients often ask, can I get a male caregiver to come and give
Yeah.
me a shower? Because, you know, as much as they love, wonderful caregivers, when they're
Mhm.
young and they're pretty and they're,
I mean, how
it's
embarrassing is that?
it is embarrassing for them. They just need to
Yeah.
take care of things, and I think it's really sad if they are saying no to taking a shower that preserves their hygiene because of the person or embarrassment. It doesn't it That's definitely when you feel like there needs to be a solution. And I
Right.
I I know I've definitely had this happen before too, moms having their 20-year-old sons giving them a shower. Oh my goodness, the
No.
embarrassment on both sides, it's just
That's
horrendous.
why it
And
doesn't happen. That's why they refuse. That is so humiliating.
it is, I'm an OT, I don't give up easily, I still have to come up with solutions, but I'll
I
tell you, though,
know.
the solution that I came up with is nowhere near as elegant, I think what I'll do is I'll tell you what it is because it can help people understand, how life-changing other solutions can work. So,
Yeah.
for me, I'm thinking about this lady who, was 40 in her 40s, multiple sclerosis, right? Happens young.
Oh,
Her son is a college kid, moved back home to be able to take care of her. And she just was not safe to be able to stand transfer to that shower chair just
yeah.
on her own. And so we really had no choice. We had no choice. And so that patient, we had a whole list. I literally had to write it out with bullet points. Okay, step 1, step 2, step 3. And so think about this, that patient needs to be prepared, have energy to do all this. So she's gotta
Right.
take off her bottoms. I get them to buy, like, an XX large T-shirt from, a store where they can just pop it over their head, put the transfer belt on, then she's gotta get a towel in her lap for modesties. Then her
Uh-huh.
son can come in, we can get them to the shower, and then he can help her with the transfer, holding onto the belt, but he's also gotta make sure that she doesn't sit on the T-shirt because he's gonna close the curtain, and she needs to be able to take that shirt off after so that she
Right.
can pass it to the caregiver. So there are these little parts where they have to make sure that they're doing their part, or the whole thing falls into
Doesn't
pieces.
work?
Yeah, it doesn't. And, my thing is that they have to talk with us during
Uh,
that entire process. Tell us what you're doing. I'm grabbing the shampoo, I'm putting the shampoo in, I'm rinsing my hair. So we understand at what points there could be potential fall risk. Like if the shampoo
oh.
happens to be on the floor and she's
Oh,
reaching forward and she doesn't have good trunk stability, that
right.
could be a problem. So I wanna know what she's doing so I can throw in the reminders, "Hey, don't forget, hold on to one side of the
Yeah.
bench so that when you go get it, or next time, let's make sure let's write this down and make sure that we prepare all of
Uh-huh.
those things beforehand because we didn't think about it." So,
Gotcha.
I think it's complicated, and the one good trick I think that came out of that particular one was that I figured out if you put a towel on the wheelchair seat and you put a towel on the back of it, the minute that they say, "Okay, I'm done," and I hand them the towel to in there for her to dry off her chest and her upper legs and her face and her hair, and then once she puts the transfer belt on, when we transfer, now her private areas are well dried because it's really hard to dry private areas when somebody's
When you're
standing.
sitting.
It's uncomfortable. Yes, but if
Right.
you sit, everything kind of spreads open. You get some
Okay.
good foam, absorption going on in there. And then when they lean back, it dries their back. So it's in my mind, it's trying to think about how do I decrease the work for a caregiver, but also have efficient abilities to dry them and take care of all those things, especially with skin status. I'm always afraid of pulling a little too
Right.
hard in spaces that are tender and soft. So, anyway, as you can see, big, huge list of things that you have to remember to do. The
Right.
cognitive load is enormous. So, I that's why I'm always really interested in looking at new ideas. So, I mean, I think we've definitely established that it's a difficult problem. It's a difficult
Mhm.
problem, bathing in general, difficult when you're adding dementia to it, really hard when you add this, opposite sex problem.
Right.
So you really have a solid view of this, having home care for 16 years
Yeah.
and the creator of a potential solution. So I'm just hoping that maybe you can help us understand, like what other categories of solutions are available to solve this problem, and like what kind of solutions did you find when you were looking initially?
Well, I've heard stories of, how caregivers have always covered people up with towels,
Mhm.
but other than that, that's the only solution that I know of. Now, there are a couple of other garments out on the market. I actually know a lady who created one, but it's just a thin fabric. It's not gonna be warm, and it's just wraps around you. It doesn't have the zipper, so it's not really good for people who nurses have to check for skin breakdown or anything like that because you're completely covered up. It's literally just for modesty, and it's a
Yeah.
lot cheaper than mine, obviously.
Yeah.
But other than that, I'm telling you, there is nothing on the market. There's
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah, and I'm gonna have to agree with you even when I haven't looked at this problem in several years, and I did a quick Google search, and I came up with, never naked shower drapron, which, like you said, is, it
Mhm.
covers it up, it's modesty, but it's not about the warmth, it's really about creating almost a barrier between
Right.
the person yeah, their caregiver. And then the shower wraps, other than that, I was thinking back about other solutions that didn't really work well, but were sort of solutions, like things that I had thought about. Those terry cloth robes where you
Right.
can pull them up and at least keep one part covered, but then the terry cloth would get wet, and now what do you do after? I mean, it was complicated, shoulder
Yeah.
Velcro. So it's tough to have all of them, all of those
I did
features
have
into one
one
thing.
guy that had spina bifida, and for some reason, he didn't wanna be naked in front of the caregivers. I don't remember I don't remember what he said, but anyway, he wore a bathing suit. He could bathe himself, and they would just help him get in and out of the shower, um, but he wore a bathing suit, which
Yeah,
worked for him,
actually,
so
I
that's
think
good.
that's perfectly fine.
Yeah,
A lot of caregivers will put on a bathing suit to get in there to
I
shower the other
know.
person.
Yeah,
Um, and actually, that's a big reason why I usually, when somebody's building from scratch, when they're building a new shower from scratch, I almost always say, listen, make sure that you split where the faucet is and where the shower head is. And that way, you can control the temperature and the volume of the water without getting wet as a caregiver. You could stay on the kind of outside and you can control a lot of those things, because
oh, that's a
otherwise,
good idea.
yeah, always. Because this is something that you can do in a new build. It's really hard to do if you. It's. I don't
Y
think actually it's possible to do in a retrofit unless you're planning to cut down that wall. So when people
Right,
are building a custom shower, it's the number one thing I say, because it's about the caregiver. It's about how difficult it is.
yeah,
They need to change into a bathing suit to go turn on the water and make sure that it is the right temperature. Which
that's funny.
that's this just all these obstacles add to busy caregivers things to do, and so then bathing becomes a bigger chore than it
Well, now
already
you see
is
why
even for the
nobody wants to take a
person.
shower.
Right.
It's so much trouble.
It's a lot of work for everybody, and it's exhausting. It's
Yeah,
exhausting for them.
yeah,
I find that is definitely one of those, considerations, because if
yeah,
you wanna decrease falls, you need to be making sure that you're at the highest energy level, that they're
yeah,
alert, that you can transfer them in and out, that their legs don't get weak as you're trying to
mhm,
get them out, and now we have to call the fire department.
Lord.
That's yeah.
I know, for
That's
real.
Yeah, never the fun part, and actually, I thought about the idea that the blue hug is probably something you could do in case somebody did actually fall and just to have their modesty when, you know, 6 20-year-old firefighters break down your door
Oh,
and
good
come pick
lord.
you up off the floor. Oh my goodness, it has been I have definitely heard that story
Yeah.
multiple times, being yeah, being exposed and vulnerable on the floor at 5 AM, and you
That's
don't have any
horrifying
clothes
because I'll
on,
tell you
it's
this, I don't care how old you get, you're still 25 years old in your mind and your spirit, and all you can think of is, "Dear God, have mercy." All these guys, these cute guys are coming in here, and I am all over the place. You know?
Yes, absolutely. I completely agree.
Yeah.
Let's preserve the, you know, humiliation from
Right.
them and just let's start with something a good product first of all. So, like, tell us a little bit more about the hug. So we kind of like briefly talked about the zippers and everything,
Mhm.
but give us like the brief introduction about how this product works better than all of these other non-solutions we've just talked about.
Well, like I said, it's the neoprene makes it just have body, and it's like a luxurious feeling when you put it on. And I have, like, literally given this to so many people and just said, "Try it," because I just it depends on who they are, but, like, somebody who's can really use this and promote it, um, that's done videos for me, like Adria, I sent her one, and she got in the shower and she used it because I wanted her to feel what it feels like. But it's hard to explain, but that's why I called it the hug, because you literally feel it's like sitting in a hot tub. That's what it feels like, because when you fill it up with that warm water, it just it stays warm, obviously, you know that because it's neoprene, but it having that weighted, and it's just really, really, really comforting. That's the best word that I can say is comforting.
Yeah. And
And that's
I
why I
think
love
that
it so much for people with dementia, because it really calms them down.
yeah. And I think, you know, it's easier to talk somebody into putting on a different garment than it is to say, let's get in the shower. But if I can say, hey, here's this really cool bright blue dress that has
Mhm.
these neat zippers on it, let's try it on. Can we
Right.
see how this is? And maybe we sit and watch a TV show and then we think, you know, hey, this could be a good idea. Let's go check out the bathroom and see if there's maybe you need to brush your teeth now. And oh, by the way, look, we're in the shower. We're in the room where we normally take a shower. You know what? That thing can get wet. Don't worry about it. You can just step right in. You don't have to do anything. So I think sometimes taking the stress or the expectation out of it, you're going to have a
Right.
shower, and that means that you need to do X, Y, and Z. Instead, just break it up into, look, we're just changing clothes.
Right.
And then maybe we'll end up in the shower. And oh, by the way, maybe we'll be in the shower. And look how warm you feel. Isn't that
Right.
great? I think the thing I like about it is the zipper aspect of it, that you can have this giant zipper that goes all the way up. You can access and wash everything, but there's no vision in there so that the person doesn't feel like you're
Looking
looking
at them.
at them, right?
Yeah.
And you can get the shower, get totally cleansed, and they can feel it, and also they can help too. So if the problem is just a warmth problem, then you can undo the zippers, give them the soap and everything. Just take
Exactly.
care of it like that. So I like
Mhm.
that when you're solving lots of different problems, you can
Mhm.
also only solve the problem that is the one that's stopping them from taking the shower. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. It doesn't have to be just I give away all of my bathing um
Right.
to that person to do. Just let's see how we can do this. Let's break it up into
Mhm.
pieces and see.
Yeah.
Um, so with those dementia ones, I'm wondering, are there times where it doesn't work for them?
Oh, yeah,
Or,
because
you know,
people will still be like, I'm not taking a shower. I don't care what you do."
I see.
And then I've met people who are like, "Oh, I don't need that. I lost my modesty a long time ago." So they don't need it. Not everybody needs it.
Yeah, that's really true too. And I guess I'm trying to understand, we have talked about a lot of different solutions, and I'm trying to figure out when would a clinician say, like, yes, this is definitely the answer, and when would they say, well, this might not be the most appropriate solution? Like, what would be the clinical reasoning behind that?
Well, it obviously just depends on the person that they're working with. Um, with somebody with dementia, I mean, it just depends on how bad it is. Sometimes we'll have clients who are easy and they'll do whatever you need them to do, even though they have dementia. They don't have that. They're not to that stress level, or they're not going through that anger and paranoid part of dementia. And you can get them to do things. And then sometimes we work with people who are so combative, you can't get them to do anything. So that's something. Um,
Mm.
Usually, when we offer it to somebody, they're willing to try it if they have their mind. And especially when we tell them, look, you're not going to have to sit there with no clothes on, and this is going to keep you really nice and toasty warm. And you can bathe yourself with this on. You can bathe yourself. We don't have to bathe you, but this will let us get you in and out safely, and you can be covered up and have your dignity. And most everybody's always willing to try it. And then once they do, they love it because they see what it feels like.
Yeah, you just have to get them to try it.
Yeah.
I think that that's really important. I saw a video that Adria had done about using the blue hug for transitions to care communities, and I thought that was genius. The idea that, part of the welcome package could be,
Right.
like, here is your personal,
Mhm.
garment, because knowing that you're coming from a home environment where it's it's just you and people that you know, and you're going into an unfamiliar environment that you don't know any of these people that
Right.
maybe will later become your friends, but at this moment, they're just strangers to you, and it
Right.
feels really weird. So I love that, she's suggesting giving this to people to give them a
Mhm.
way to make that transition into feeling more comfortable with the next setting. Is that something that you've heard a lot from people that you've been taking care of at home that end up needing, like, a higher level of care?
Well, yeah, and that is why I do market these to assisted livings for them to at least, you know, put the information in the paperwork packet or whatever paperwork that they have to do or go over with them, that they do have it, that they have it available to the residents when they move in, and the families can buy one. Um, because yes, you are not kidding. It's like a traumatic situation for Miss Johnson to know that she's fixing to move into this assisted living, and she's not gonna have a choice but for somebody to give her a bath. I mean, come
Yeah.
on. It's
Well,
just
I think if we thought about that in any other situation, none of us would be okay with that.
right.
Like, I'm gonna go into a situation where not gonna know a single person, and they might be rushed and not being good listeners and needing, like, me to not being okay with me taking the time I need to just get myself situated. Yeah, I don't think that any of us would really accept it, but it seems like when you're going to a skilled nursing facility, you really don't have a choice,
Or
which
even
you
just
don't,
assisted
right?
living and memory
Yeah,
care,
yeah.
you don't have a choice
You're inside of
because
somebody else's schedule.
your family wants you bathed, whether you want it or not, because and I know a lot of people that work at a lot of assisted livings, and families get mad when you don't
Uh,
provide the services that they're paying for. They don't care if mom wants it or not.
and that's
Seriously.
tough. I feel
Yep.
like you're really stuck in the middle there because now it's the trust issue problem.
Yep.
I need to do You don't want it, and normally I want to be able to find the right solution that makes everybody happy.
Mhm.
That's a tough one,
It's
I think.
hard.
Yeah. Have you thought about inpatient rehab? I mean, I have, that was the first, setting that I worked in when I first moved to Florida, and we had so many where it was the first time that they'd ever fallen. These are not people who are used to being hospitalized at all, who have
Right.
lost their dignity. I mean, these are people who living their lives, and they trip over the garden hose and they
And break
break
their dang
something,
hip.
and suddenly
Yep.
suddenly they're in a situation that they've never been in before, and it feels really weird. And
Yeah.
I'm thinking about a couple situations where, OTs generally do, dressing programs in the morning to work on those skills of,
Mhm.
dressing, bathing, grooming, but, there there are so many times where you've got the commode there, and there's 2 CNAs that they need to be able to do the transfer, and then the nurse is in there trying to take the temperature, and, the OTs are trying to teach this and that. I mean, there's 6 or 7 people in the room where this is somebody
Yeah,
who's used to having, nobody in that space, and so it
right.
must be very disorienting. I often feel
Mhm.
very sad for them because fluorescent light also nobody's really naked under fluorescent light with a whole bunch of people all around you, and so I often wondered if this is something that inpatient rehab should really be thinking about having because these sudden life emergencies happen,
Mhm.
and these are the ones who really feel embarrassed or unsure about, what's going on. What do you
No,
think
I
about that?
agree. Yeah.
It's and then in bathing, like, at a inpatient rehab, I think would be inside of a walk-in shower, so that seems like it would be all easier, right? You would just make the garment wet, let it get nice and warm, and then step
Yep.
right into it. Yeah, so
Yeah.
at that moment, now we're just talking about modesty and
Right.
less about warmth maybe, whereas maybe in other environments, it's more about, well, if you're cold, then we're gonna do something like this, or
Yeah.
or you need other help. And I think I saw too that you can zip it up backwards as well, right?
Yes, I was talking to one of my caregivers that was over here earlier, and, so if somebody is in one of those plastic wheelchairs that the shower wheelchair that rolls in there, they can just put it on 'em backwards and just zip it because it hooks at the top and zips
Yes.
down to close, so it's an upside down zipper. So you just hook it and zip it down to the seat, and then
Mm,
they can wear it, and then also, I didn't know this until I created this thing, but sometimes people have accidents when they're in the shower because they get, like, really comfortable and it
of
just comes
course.
out.
Sure.
So if it's one of those people that's prone to do that, you could put theirs on backwards too, and then they're sitting on the shower seat instead of sitting on the garment, and then they won't get feces on their garment.
That is genius. That
Yeah.
is genius. That is absolutely true because everything everything in your private areas are muscles. And so what
Mhm.
happens with nice hot water and you finally get your first shower after a week or whatever, I mean, it feels
Yeah.
great and yes, everything comes
Mhm.
out. I
Just
love
let's
that.
go.
Yeah, because what you're doing is you're making a caregiver's job easier or a CNA
Oh,
in
yeah.
the hospital because
Right.
then they can just rinse it right off. There you go. No embarrassment. Nobody needs
Mhm.
to try to solve this problem in a different way. I love
Right.
that. So this is super enlightening, and I want to know if you could share. I'm interested to hear a couple stories about what people thought when you first started, when you first gave it to them. What was the feedback?
Well, one of my favorite stories was at the very, very beginning, and, a placement agency had been hired by a mom who was, like, 85 years old, and her son lived with her, and he was 65, and he had had a stroke and had not taken a shower in 5 years because he would
Yeah.
not let her help him in and out of the shower. So he was in a wheelchair, and she would push him into the bathroom, get the sink filled up with soapy water, and he would do what he could by himself, and then he'd let her come in and push him back out. So they ended up moving into an assisted living, obviously not in the same room. I didn't think about that, but they both moved into assisted living, and the placement company got him a garment. And for the very first time in 5 years, he put that thing on and he let a caregiver help him in the shower, and the mother was just she literally cried
I bet.
because she was so happy that he had an option, you know?
Yeah. When you don't have options, I think that's when you feel really stuck, and especially
Ye
as a mom, I'm sure that
Yeah.
it broke her heart
Right.
knowing that he really needed
She
it,
felt
but
so awful for him.
Interesting. And I would say I wish I had known about it. Years ago, I had a lady where it was 3 years. She had not been in the shower in 3 years, and hers
Wow.
was because of urinary tract infections, and her
Wow.
daughter was beside herself about, we cannot control these urinary tract infections if she can't get in the shower, and she was so afraid. And, you know, it's tough because they're that that's what they need to do, but they have this fear that's stopping them from being able to do what they want to do,
Right.
and everybody's just stuck, and really all they were dealing with was these constant hospitalizations over and over again because she would get a UTI, get weak, and then have a fall, and then it would start all over again, and they've
And you know
been
how
dealing
dangerous
with this.
those things are?
Well, of course, and every fall she has is reiterating how
Ugh.
dangerous it is and how she doesn't feel like she has confidence in her ability to do anything.
Yeah.
So I think that if I was to pick a good success story, I would be that one for me because it took me several, I wanna say weeks, at least weeks to gain her trust, to talk things through. I mean, we would have sessions where we did nothing but strategy
What was she
about
afraid of?
what are we going to do? Well, she's the bathroom is tile, so she's afraid of the cold, she's afraid of hurting herself,
Right?
she's afraid of the water hitting her eyes,
Wow.
she's afraid. Yeah, yeah, of course, and that's a common complaint, and funny, I had little kids at the time, and little kids don't like water in their eyes either, and so I had a little, like, neoprene shower cap that you can buy with, actually, weirdly, there were all of these tourist stores. I'd go to the tourist store and buy 10 at once with a
Oh,
little.
those visor things?
They're visors, yeah, and they have a little
Yes.
string that you can make it tighter. They were so perfect for bathing, and so I'd pop one of those on my kids, and so when I'm trying to rinse their hair, then
Yeah.
the water wouldn't get in their eyes, and so I remember commandeering one of those, bringing it to her house and saying, "Okay, well, this is what we could do too," and we literally it was like a battle plan. I mean, the table was full of, "Okay, what are the things that you're worried about that are stopping you from being able to get
Oh,
in there? Okay, and let's have one solution for every one of those problems. So if it was a heat
good.
problem, we're going to buy a heater and we're going to heat that bathroom up. All the tiles in there will be reflecting heat with after 15 minutes of having a heater going.
Yeah.
Um, I will get like one of those big plushy terry cloth robes,
Mhm.
and I will be standing right there the minute that you're out, so that you can dry
Oh,
off and have a nice warm
yeah.
um bathrobe to get into. What else did we do? She used the bathing suit trick also. We
Yeah.
found an oversized bathing suit so that she would feel like she was at the pool. We were talking about, ways to calm people down, and
Right.
she was identifying that when she's at the pool, just sitting, lounging in the sun and reading a paper or whatever, that she felt relaxed. And I said, "Okay, so
Yeah.
why don't we try to see if we can mimic some of those feelings, but in a different area and build new memories where you are not so scared of the shower? And let's build happy memories where you feel in the same way." So yeah, so
Exactly.
she got her bathing suit, and we would visualize and envision what that feels like to be, you know,
At the
in that
pool.
space. And
Yeah.
what's great about oversize is you can wash just like with the little
Yeah.
zippers. You can get to those spaces, but then you're still covered. It keeps you warm. Um, yeah, I think it can be a real challenge, and definitely in that situation, you needed a third party. It was
Mhm.
not going to work with her family who was frustrated, and she's frustrated too. And they've had this conversation many times in 3 years, and
Right.
it's never led to anything. So it really needed to be looked at from a totally different lens. And I think that that was what ended up being able to solve this. And I think that that's why, shower garments are really vital. It's a really
Yeah.
vital option to be able to offer to clients and their families to just kind of break up some of that tension.
Mhm. Well, I did wanna say that too about the falling situation. I know a lot of my clients, before we started working with them, wouldn't take a shower because they were always afraid they were gonna fall, and they had a caregiver come in, and even if the caregiver was just in the house with them, you know, they would feel more comfortable going and taking a shower. But to me, having this garment, when you have a caregiver bathing you, makes you feel like you can just slow down and,
Yeah.
especially if you're at home, slow down, take your time and enjoy your shower and not have to hurry and worry that you're going to fall, you know?
Yeah, that's so interesting that what you just said because, before you're in that situation, we do think about showers as relaxing. You take a tub to go to sleep well at
Yes.
night. Water and all of these routines are things that calm us. And so
Mhm.
it's sad to think that a fall can just flip that over and now make that something to be scared about, and we're
Right.
just trying to rush through the process, because definitely rushing is what leads to falls. This has been such a fascinating conversation, so we need to wrap up soon, and I'm just hoping maybe you have some ideas, some top 3 takeaways from our discussion that clinicians can use to guide their practice for tomorrow. What would you say those are?
Just keeping just keep in their mind that this is, something that everybody could potentially use as a tool, you know, and they'll just have to, I guess, I don't know, just look at each individual patient and,
Mhm.
uh, and just offer them, the opportunity. Like we said, now they have an option.
Right. If they don't think about it, if they don't know about it, they can't offer it, and if they can't offer it, then families don't have another
Well,
option.
there's so many adaptive tools and clothing and equipment and stuff out there now. It's crazy. There's like something for everything. And I love finding cool little things to help people with.
Yeah. You
But,
know
before I got into doing this, I never even really paid attention how many neat things there were out there.
Yeah. I was just thinking how a lot of times the way that I talk people not talk people into, I help them come to the realization that an installed grab bar is the ideal thing, is to give them a suction one. And I'll let them
Oh,
try
yeah.
something small,
Mhm.
something small, something that, but it takes a lot of work because they have to check it every single time. And the darn thing will fall off in the middle of the night and scare the Jesus out of them. They have to learn these things. And through that process, recognizing the benefits of the grab bar, but the downsides of the annoying things that they have to do in there. So, like I
Right.
was talking about that oversized t-shirt dance basically that I'm trying to teach my
Mhm.
patient and her son to do, if you got them to try that and then they recognize, wait, this is really helpful for preserving my dignity, but man, that's a lot of work.
Mhm.
What other solutions are there out there that I could try instead that could manage
Right.
this better? So I think in terms of takeaways, I'm just going to, I want to think about this from a clinician's point of view here. You want to really consider those options. Like, what are
Yeah.
those pros and cons? Like we were saying, it's not for everybody. A dementia patient
Right.
may say, look, I am not putting on anything. So don't force it. Don't be a, don't make that a sticking point.
Right.
Considering the client, what kind of client is it? What are they trying to do? What are their goals? And then thinking about what kind of caregiver you're talking about. Is
Mhm.
what's important to them? What kind of caregiver are they? Does that matter? Is it something that, they're willing to put the work into?
Mhm.
And, maybe it's a financial decision that they just don't have any
Right.
extra money right now to be buying
Right.
anything, let alone even if it's not a huge price point, but just they just cannot afford it at this moment. So, what are the options in those situations given all those parameters and looking at that big picture and doing what clinicians do, right? Looking at the patient, looking at the
Options.
caregiver, looking at the situation,
Yeah.
and coming up with a short list of, okay, if this, then this.
Well, and you saying all of that made me think about this. You know, there's a lot most people don't have money for caregivers. They really don't. So, the blue hug is an actual really good option for the son-in-law, daughter-in-law, whoever's taking care of mom or dad at home. It's a really good option for them to actually be able to give them the bath by themselves instead of
Mm,
having a caregiver come in. Because I have had many people call me that literally only need somebody to come and help mom and dad take a bath. And the very first thing that I always say is I ask questions to see if they qualify for home health, because if they're a fall risk or whatever, they need home health anyway. Then they'll get somebody to come and give them a bath for that time period. But if not, that's what we do first. And if they don't qualify, then they can just get a blue hug. And then that alleviates that problem, at least for the period of time until they need more help.
that's an excellent point. The financial part in this, if that's the only thing stopping you
Yeah.
from doing that, it's significantly less money to
Yeah, and you just
just
buy one.
purchase something, and then you can
Yeah.
take your shower on your own time. You're not
Yeah.
trying to coordinate times and people and other things. That's an excellent point. Thank you for that. So
Yeah.
that's all the time that we have today. I just want to see, how can people reach you if they want to learn more, if they have questions?
Well, they can email me at Jodi, Jodi, at thebluehug.com. And, I check it 50 times a day. And so, and if they want to send me their phone number, I'll call them and I could talk to them. People call me all the time to ask me questions about how do you use it? How do you clean it? And I have a really good website too that's very informative. So they can obviously go on the website and
And what is
see
the
things
website?
like that. Yeah.
Can you give us the website?
Oh, yeah, it's just thebluehug.com.
Okay, perfect. Just wanted to check. Wonderful. All right. Well, thanks again to Jodi Bellam from The Blue Hug for the insight and takeaways related to bathing with dignity. We'd like to note that this episode is intended for educational purposes only and does not represent an endorsement of any specific company or product. We reference types of solutions, but these are to inform clinical decision making and not to promote specific brands. Thanks for tuning into this episode, and I hope to see you all again next time. Bye bye. Thanks for tuning in to Innovative Aging by MedBridge. Be sure to subscribe on Spotify, Apple, your favorite podcast platform, or listen directly at medbridge.com. If you'd like to earn continuing education credit and access bonus resources from this episode, just log in to your MedBridge account and search for the show title to get started. And we'd love to hear from you. If there's a topic you want us to explore or a guest you'd love to hear from, reach out via Instagram or email us at podcasts@medbridge.com. Thank you for the work you do and for joining us as we explore what it truly means to age in place. See you next time.